I would like to request the session moderator, Mrs. Esther Seper-Bannert, Director, Researcher, and Trainer of Core Edu, to join me up on stage, as well as the panelists, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So before we start our lively discussions with our speakers, I would like to give you a warm-up introduction just to get into the topic we will discuss on. So I think I do not say anything new when I say that education is crucial for our future. I would even say education is as important as the currently most discussed issue on climate change. Because only the good informed, well-experienced and curious person is able and willing to react on the challenges of our planet, and only this person is open-minded also to act. Therefore, education is the fundament for a globally thinking and responsibly acting generation. We only can ensure a truly human future if we care about the present situation of the youth. But who is affected by the speed of skills change? And what kind of skills we are talking about? What needs the labor market? And what, how, and under which condition are people willing to upskill? These are very important questions when we look to the generation who are currently working or looking for a job. Because of the limited time today, I would like to mention or focus on the two generations who is the most current target for our discussion. And this is the so-called Generation Y and the Generation Z or Z. Because their characteristics also affect the range of available competences within recruitment of future skilled labor. So there are many descriptions what Generation Y and Z is about. I just summarized the most characteristics of this generation, just to give you an overview. So Generation Y is the generation, is my generation. It was born between 1980s and 90s. And this generation prefers to work in teams rather than in deep hierarchies. For them, enjoying work is more important than status and prestige. More freedom, the opportunity for self-fulfillment, and more time for family and leisure are central demands of this generation. They no longer want to subordinate everything to their job, but rather demand a balance between work and life and leisure time, and strive for a job that makes sense to them. So what about the Generation Z or Z? These are all digital natives. They were born after 2000. So the key feature of this generation is that they realized that the dreams of their generation or of their elderly parents, they are rarely a reality. Generation Z generally lacks the willingness to bind itself to a company. Loyalty is no longer to be expected. From this follows the need for a clear separation between professional and private life. Work-life blending still works perfectly for Generation Y, my generation. It fails with Generation Z. It is very important for them that work ends clearly, because at 5 p.m., at least or at latest, start the free time. Generation Z wants their private life. And it tends to want to work as closely as possible with small group of colleagues made up of representatives of own generation. It is conceivable why leadership responsibility is a word for this group. They neither want to take on the psychological problems of the leadership, nor are they reminded of their responsibility for anything or anyone after 5 p.m. So when we take into consideration the changes of the labor market as a consequence of globalization of the markets, the different learning habits that we were talking about in the first day, the habits and the interest of digital natives and the characteristics of the generation Y and Z, it raises different questions within the educational system. Now, I am very glad to have the opportunity to discuss this issue with great and experienced experts who I would like to invite to our panel discussion. And I'm also very glad to have this composition of people with totally different background, because this allows us to discuss this very important topic from the totally different perspective. So I kindly ask you to come to the stage. So welcome to the panel discussion. And before we start the discussion, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself so everybody knows your background and about you and your perspective on today's topic.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Dina Metier. I'm a high school teacher in Geneva in Switzerland. I teach French literature and social media because I have a master's degree in that field. And I'm also the founder of an app called Bolby app, which allows students to connect with tutors instantly, almost, for one-to-one lessons. It works in the entire Swiss Romande, called the French part speaking in Switzerland. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sujaya Rao, and I've been a consultant, a trainer, mentor in entrepreneurship development for over 15 years, specifically in that space. Currently, a co-founder of Future Edu, working on career awareness and career readiness programs for schools and colleges. It's been a great journey, like I mentioned before, training faculty to be entrepreneurship educators, working with students to set up the ecosystem on various campuses in India and Southeast Asia in the space of entrepreneurship. So I've been working on both ends of the spectrum, one on career guidance and one on building entrepreneurs who will provide jobs.
Hi everyone, I'm Karishma Samtani. I'm from Hong Kong. I currently work in an investment bank and my portfolio focuses on junior talent. I also work with universities in Hong Kong whereby we've noticed there's a gap between academics and the labor market. So I'll share more during the discussion, but that's a bit of my background. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Shahida Ayub Anggulia. I'm from Singapore. I have a master's degree in early childhood and a diploma in special needs. I'm also a founder of Ilham Childcare Singapore. We believe in Your Child Never Walks Alone program, where we give equal learning opportunities to all children from 18 months to 6 years old. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian Lee. I'm the founder of Level School Consulting, and we partner with the ISPD Innovation in Diplomacy Network as well as Magnus Butler Academy since 2015. And the service we provide is recruitment, training, and consulting for the people in the field of hospitality, private house and private office management, as well as in the field of protocol, soft diplomacy skills, as well as cross-cultural communications. Well, for the course which we offer start from crash course to the professional training and the executive master program in protocol and soft diplomacy skills. The programs which we cover so far includes the Royal Court of Diwan in Oman, Oman Aviation Service, hospitality training for the hotel groups around the world, and some private and office management protocol setting and procedures for the house and office around Oman, Vancouver, and Hong Kong. So same as Ms. Charisma, I'm from Hong Kong as well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Esther Chipe-Banat. I'm from the educational enterprise Core Edu from Germany, from the beautiful city of Leipzig. And we are following a holistic approach in our work, and we started with applied research, which means that we analyze educational markets, the labor market, systems, educational systems, organizations, and we look for good practices, good systems that works, and even also for bad practices that we can avoid maybe in our work. Then we transfer this knowledge, the outcomes of the research, into our training and develop appropriate training and demand-oriented training for trainers, teachers, and students. And finally, we do this training. And one of our specialties is that we support young people and even teachers and trainers in companies to go abroad for students during their vocational education and training and gain experiences abroad, see how other people are working in their field, gain some intercultural experiences. And this work is made within the initiative Berufsbildung ohne Grenzen, which means vocational education without borders. So if there is anybody who is offering placements for German students, we are looking forward to meet you after this session. Okay, so let's start the discussion. Our topic is today the speed of skills change. Dina, based on your experiences, when is the right time to care about the availability of future skills which is required for the labor market?
Thank you. I think the sooner better. As a teacher, of course, you can always try to develop and to reinforce two elements, I think, fundamental elements for a career for students. First element is, of course, the ability to speak in front of an audience, which is for some of us maybe easier or emotional like me, or very scary from some students. But of course, in the labor world, you need to sell yourself. You need to be a little bit confident and, of course, to develop that skills. The second element is, of course, the ability to work as a group. And we had an amazing time working as a group, and I'm so happy to be with you guys, because we didn't know each other just yesterday, and we decided to make a group, a WhatsApp group, to just reunite and to work together in order to have this presentation for you. And some students, when they are 16 to 20, which are my students, they don't understand the meaning and the importance of work as a team, even if they don't know the person just 2 minutes before. So that would be my answer, and the two skills in high school that you can teach for the career.
So the skills monitoring and the competence monitoring starts in the early age. And based on your experiences, are schools able to provide this kind of support to the students so they can update on their social skills?
Well, Switzerland has I think has a good program, school program. And for example, in my school, we have already structure with orientation counselors that are available for the students when they don't know what to do or what career to choose. So we have those structure, and it's good. Also, our school, for example, they they oblige the students to do internship during the scholar program. So they won't get the diploma without those internship. But from my opinion, I think this is not enough. For example, we don't get any lessons in speaking from people who are actually already in the labor world, coming into the class and teach the students to know what they need to go into the world. And I think that should be necessary from the earliest age ever, or bring the students into the industry. Well, this is a passage and transmission.
Thank you very much. Karishma, when we think about the normal life of the young people, we know that they are like overloaded with activities, extracurricular things, and check the Facebook page and any social network. So there are many things that the young people have to do nowadays. And when we come back to the professional pathway, how is it possible to manage for a young person to get such a clear overview about their future pathway, so which later allows them to have the right competences to fit to the labor market needs.
Thank you. I think Dina actually spoke very nicely about it starting at an earlier age. Now, I come from Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong, it's very obvious that we have two systems in place. One is the international system, and one is the local curriculum. Now, in the international school system, we can already see things are being introduced, like career counseling, guidance is being introduced at a much earlier stage. However, if we look at the local Hong Kong curriculum system, there's nothing like that. And where I feel the gap is currently is really at the grade 9, grade 10 level, where students have to go in and choose their streams that they'd like to go into. And I think at that point is when the guidance should, really start, because that's when they can identify with whether they are interested in it. I mean, you can see students who are clear-cut not made for science, and I was one of those students. But there are other students who may be fantastic in all subjects, and I'm sure, Brian, you can relate to this. However, because they are good, it's not necessarily something they are interested in. And so that guidance should be coming in at that point. The next point I feel the guidance should be coming in is before they apply for universities. I think, again, that's another point where a good touch point for students to understand what each of the programs are in universities. So, for example, if we look at the Faculty of Engineering, what is chemical engineering? What is electronic engineering? And so on. I've seen a lot of students, like I mentioned, I work at the universities in Hong Kong. I've met a lot of students who have gone into a program, completed year 1, and realized that it's not for them. So they've had to backtrack and start a program all the way from scratch. So I feel when they have the guidance at the high school level, that would eliminate this to some extent. And again, talking on Dina's point, is getting in experts from the industry to actually come in and educate them and create that awareness of what if they were to go in the industry, what that job really entails. I think, again, when students go in for internships, they don't realize what they signed up for.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So you already mentioned some of the barriers or challenges that the young people face when they are entering the labor market. Could you just summarize it, or maybe add 1 or 2 more challenges that young people face nowadays before they entering the labor market?
I think one of the biggest challenges is academics, right? A lot of parents, again, I can only speak from the space that I come from, and I've seen it in India, I've seen it in the wider China region, I've seen it in Hong Kong. It's all focused on academics, and what's missing there is students don't know how to market themselves. It's as simple as that. They've got great academics, they've got great extracurriculars, they've got great leadership skills. However, they don't know how to put this on a CV or a cover letter. So I have a background in campus recruitment, and I share this with all students. When we get applications for internships or for grad programs, we use all of 5 seconds to look at a CV and a cover letter. So it's really teaching that gap of not having something in place for students to learn what is important and what will add value is where one of the biggest challenges come. And therefore, the workshops I used to conduct in universities has now been translated and is part of a curriculum. It's a credited module within 2 universities in Hong Kong and branching out.
Thank you very much, Karishma. If I understood it correctly, the young people are well educated, they have a good knowledge, and they think they are prepared for the labor market. In some cases, maybe they are not, they have many competencies, but they are not aware of it to be able to sell themselves for the market. So, Sujaya, when we think about this issue, according to your experiences, what is necessary to make young people more self-confident and make them aware of their already existing competencies so they can build up easier upon?
Oh yes, on the awareness front, I think there is the required awareness to be created on various levels. Now, I come from India, and we've been talking about, there were questions raised yesterday on, the number game. Now, when you look at institutions, I've been in Malaysia and Indonesia and all of that, but generally, you see the young minds, very confused. Now, you see them walk into the classroom, you see them completely influenced by what is happening around that. So the different kinds of influences. One is the cultural influence. They also get influenced by parents, their own friends, their grandparents, and there's a whole lot of things happening around that. Teachers influence them. And in all of this, they're lost. So where is the individual? That is what is the first awareness that we have to create. Help every student understand who he or she actually is. Who am I? And that's the first question. On the other end, it's like, what's happening outside there? So the system, the education system is, transformation is happening very slowly. But, a lot of graduates, we're churning out graduates by, the dozens and thousands, lakhs of them every year. Unemployability. Why? The skill gap. And, I've been on panels where I've been also, talking to HR heads. And every time we have the same discussion, the industry-academia gap, right? Why is it so? Because the system stays the same. The dynamics are the same. You want to complete your syllabus, you want to complete your curriculum, you have no understanding of the kind of skills, the kind of programs that could be introduced, within the system. You are not institutionalizing programs that could help students go to the next level of skill development. The awareness of what are the job opportunities, what kind of skills are required, none of this is even understood by most teachers. Teachers, if you see in India, for them, the current lot, we really need to scale up the quality. We need to help them understand the skills required for tomorrow. They're coming into the profession, looking at it as a job. So we have to help everyone understand that, hey, what you're contributing to is something so foundational for the success of any individual who's going out there. So I think the awareness on the person, on the individual, the awareness on the requirements of what are the emerging opportunities and the skills required, pretty much to be on the speed level. We have to hasten that. It's just not happening.
Thank you. So when I listen to your answers, I am a little bit afraid of so many competencies that the teacher nowadays should have to support the students in all their life section. So do you have maybe one or two nice idea or tool or support or anything else that you think that can help teachers to get these competencies or upskill at least these competencies to support the students?
I think one of them mentioned yesterday that, we have a very gadget-oriented generation right now. Everyone on social media, the students on social media, you get into a classroom, they're constantly, especially in colleges, they're constantly on their mobile phones. And where is the respect of a teacher coming in and, kind of sharing, conveying information? Teachers, on the other hand, do they actually have the ability to break down that information in palatable, pieces? How do they respond to the students? Right now, we don't see that happening in the manner that it should. Right? It's like, if you look at India and institutions across, be it schools and colleges, I've worked with both segments. There's a lot that needs to happen. Teachers need to understand too that there is, these are the emerging opportunities, that is the requirement for tomorrow. What are the skills? They are in their own comfort zone of trying to finish off, what the education system or the policies require from the government. Right? And in all of this, it becomes more competitive, it becomes more marks-oriented, so everyone is competing with the other. So the first thing that we get in and do as external resource is tell them, hey, stop comparing yourselves. Each one of you, every individual has your own talent, your potential. Be unique. Who are you? Try to figure out who you are. And that's the way the process starts. So on the teacher front, they are so tuned to trying to figure out how to keep the balance of their personal life and their academic profession that somewhere down the line, even they themselves forget the kind of contribution they need to make to this, to the current field of education. So when you actually work with them and talk to them and have these different workshops, they're so enlightened, they want to get there. So there has to be, industry connect as far as the teacher component, faculty component also.
Thank you very much. So now we jump to Hong Kong, to Brian. Brian, what kind of good materials or tools are available in your country, or do you know outside of your country, which support the students and teachers for upskilling?
Well, actually, I would say there is really quite a lot of materials online nowadays. It's all around the globe. That it's really quite a lot materials, resources online. And I believe not only in Hong Kong, but it's really worldwide. But the problem is like, how do we choose the correct material or correct resources, as well as what is the real correct ones. I think I would like to give you some examples, which when I conduct the training in hotel by the name of Magnum Speller Academy. Just one example which we will face later during the lunchtime. Regarding to the, for example, the etiquette and protocol at the table. When we leave the table, excuse ourselves, where should we place the napkins? And on the internet, there is a lot saying either you put in the chair or put on the left side of the table. And I would say there is no right or wrong, but the way how I identified the truth or the most updated technique is to balance the traditions and the current affair by using our common sense. So to answer this question, for example, how often do the hotel staff clean the chair, and how often the hotel staff will change the tablecloth? So which one will be more hygienic? I would say the tablecloth, supposedly they will change every meal, so it considered to be more clean. And the chair, when you ask the hotel staff how many times do they clean their chair, I believe they will not be able to answer you. So I think the best way to identify the true material would be based on the tradition and also the current affair, as well as using our common sense to identify.
Thank you. So when we discussed about this topic before the panel, we had the same opinion about it, that there are many materials available which in many cases are not up to date. Do you have maybe some good, easy to use methodology or way which we can use how to update these materials that we use in an easy way, in a practical way, so we can respond regularly and up to date to the needs of the labor market?
Right. I would say I will come back to the reality about micro-learning, which we have learned yesterday. Why nowadays we will apply the micro-learning and the e-learning is because of the speed of change in the world. And the micro-learning really help us a lot to update the information online, as well as face-to-face as well, as a good context in between. And secondly, I think to adapt this micro-learning, for example, one of the organizations I manage, that we have really experienced experts with really good credibility, which include Chief of Protocol of Austrian Chancellery and a former ambassador of Holy See to the European Commission, but they are kind of senior, I mean in terms of the age. They may have some difficulty to adapt these micro-learning techniques. So as a management in the education, the first step to update the detail is like we need to let our experts, our teachers know how to do it technically. So this is my experience in the organizations. And secondly, I would say what we call in the Latino words is doctrinal discimus. That is called by teaching, we learned. Nowadays, for example, in the field of adult education, many students, or we call it participants, because they don't want to be called as students. They are already quite experienced. They may even know more than the experts. And I would say the best way is we observe our participants, listen to their idea, their comments, as well as an expert, we will need to learn also by ourselves in the field so that we are not outdated. And the last thing I would say, as yesterday one of the keynote speaker mentioned, data, the detail. Because nowadays for microlearning, at the end, how do we update the knowledge to the students is by the data. If we get the updates data from the students, then whenever there is something new, especially for the skills training in the field, such as hospitality and protocol, there is always some new example coming up. That if we have their updated email address and so on, we can use a membership system to update the current knowledge to them related to the study that they did in our organization, which we are starting to do it as well by using some CLM system. So that is the point of my view. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. And because the year 2019 is almost going to an end, let's do some prediction. And I give you, Shahida, my crystal ball. And please look inside and what you see inside. How would educational institutions look in, let's say, in the 22nd century? What kind of characteristics do they have to be able to manage and upskill on this issue, the skills changes?
All right, thank you, Dr. Esther. I'm going to just throw my crystal ball to the floor and see whether they are still paying attention to us and ask the question to the floor. Okay, imagine this. 22nd century, there are loads of AIs. You have AI doctors. Do you think human doctors will still be relevant? So if you think there is still a need for human doctors in 22nd century, raise your hands up high. Yeah, and if you think there's no longer a need for human doctors, raise your hands up high too. Well, wonderful, thank you so much. So basically, of course, yes, we do still need human doctors, because what happens is AI doctors, they don't relate emotions. So in the 22nd century, there is a real need for emotional intelligence skills. There's a real need for soft skills, because you need human doctors to empathize with you as patients. You need them to feel compassionate, you know, and these are skills that is really needed in the 22nd century. For example, soft skills, the ability to solve complex problems. So human touch and the soft skills are needed where the robots cannot automate.
Yeah, and what do you think, how is it possible to reach it? What should we do? What must we do? What have to we do?
All right, so I'm a founder of childcare centers. I believe you need to start teaching and inculcating values from the preschool level, because values form the right attitude. And for example, in my childcare center, we teach growth mindset. We teach, primary 1 preparatory program, where we have social and grooming etiquette skills to students. We are an inclusive childcare center, so the students, atypical students, they mix with the special needs students, and they learn values such as being able to tolerate one another, social skills. So definitely, these are the skills that we need from the very young.
Thank you very much. So I would say the quintessence of this discussion is that we need each other because nobody can do everything. So this is also the reason that we all are here today to establish partnership. And to establish a partnership, it needs enthusiasm. To strengthen the partnership, it needs professionalism and trust that we all bring today in this conference. And to sustain the partnership needs vision and innovation and the readiness to jump over one's shadow. I think it's very, very important. And act beyond geographical and ideological boundaries. And I'm sure to reach this kind of cooperation and partnership, it is necessary that everybody is on board. So regardless if it's a CAO or the leader or a principal from the school, everybody should go together hand by hand and support teachers. So they don't lose their passion for teaching, that they have their motivation and they keep their curiosity and open-mindedness for this changing environment where they live and teach on. So thank you very much for being here and thank you very much for your experiences. And I think we are quite in time.
You are exactly on time. Thank you very much, Dr. Esther and panelists. Very enlightening discussion.
It means that there is no question option for the audience to...
Sadly.
We would like to offer you, of course, the opportunity to meet us.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. For those who have questions, perhaps you could take it outside. Yes, thank you.